Good morning. We are out here at Shelly Hall's residence. I have no idea where we are, west of Green Cove Springs area. We're far from where we're used to working. So you can see behind me, massive elevation change in this backyard. She's right on a little river here, and she actually has a little mini natural bottom pond of her own. So this job, Jason came out initially and met her. She had a pre-existing stream running down the right side of her property all the way down on the outside of her bulkheads that another contractor put in, and it served solely as just to collect and move rainwater. So her property drains super fast. We had videos that she sent us of what kind of volume of water we were talking about when it starts heavy downpour, and it's quite a lot. It's a lot more than I think both of us expected. Over the years, there's just number of washout points, vegetation's grown over. She kind of has this mixed match pile of rock everywhere. It's just, it needs to be redone. It needs a facelift. It needs to be done properly because it wasn't able to hold the amount of volume that was coming through there. So it was actually diverting water in areas where the homeowner didn't want it to go. It was eroding some of this grass line here that we see behind me. We're starting from scratch, all new liner. We're bringing in a lot larger rock just with all this elevation change. We're gonna make one closed system. We're not tying into the pond or anything. We're gonna make just a massive pondless waterfall for her with a couple neat things that we're gonna add on to it. So this is the grade I think we're gonna set our aqua block basin in, the bottom of our pondless waterfall feature with a pump stored and everything. This is where it's going to end here. Now we still have another, 30 foot to the edge of the pond. What we're gonna do for design principles, so of course all of our stream is gonna come down that elevation up top on the right side where the old stuff was. It's gonna stop here, but we're going to actually continue a dry creek bed into her natural bottom pond. The purpose of that solely, once the rain starts shedding off the very top of her property down that side, we're gonna have to, it's gonna be tricky. I think what I'm gonna do is create almost a waterfall for just the rainwater to come in to the very top and start of our pondless waterfall. And then it's gonna be able to go through our pondless waterfall system. Now when this overflows our basin, it's going to be able to carry all the way to her pond. That's what we're going to do. We're going to make it look like all once when it's pouring down rain and she has all this stuff shedding off her property, it's going to look like one massive system going into her pond. That's what we're going for. So that's where we're at here. This is kind of where the basin's going, and we're doing this higher up. We're not going to put it all the way down there just for groundwater issues. We don't want to start digging in mud and having the liner bubble up and everything. So, we're a good 4 foot, maybe higher than everything else around here, which is perfect. Now this area, there's actually, let me pull some of this stuff back. You can start seeing some of her rock. Now the liner, her old liner ends right up there, but you can see this massive washout here and just the rocks kind of thrown down in there. We're gonna widen this out. This point here is only 12, 16 inches wide. Very small, not enough for the amount of water that sheds off her property. So we're gonna widen this out. We're gonna be able to do some directional changes in the stream, beef it up a lot. We're bringing in large Tennessee River rounds with, I think, a mix of field on this one. And of course, we're gonna reuse all of her smaller stuff as well. Just climbing up, we're gonna have just series of large cascades because just climbing up right here, I'm probably already 10 foot higher, than I was 20 feet down that way. And it's just this constant hill. So for a Floridian pond builder / waterfall builder, this is gonna be really fun because usually we're doing the opposite. We're bringing in the dirt to make the hill, and bringing in this much soil to make something like this in a flat yard is ridiculous. I've never done that. So the grade here really warrants some very dramatic, tall waterfalls. I mean, you can see this isn't the EPDM liner that we use there's just like, I don't know. There's just random stuff everywhere. There's pieces here and there. There's stuff folded on top of each other. A bunch of small cobbles that just probably, I'm sure it looked nice once it started, you know, once it was first installed, but over the years it just ends up with these awkward collection points of cobbles and what have you. All this vegetation's coming out, and we're just gonna keep climbing this hill with massive, epic earthworks waterfalls. I'm gonna try to climb up to where this thing's going to start. So it gets a little weird in here because her septic is actually right there. So a lot of this, you know, machine access, that's a big no-go. We can't drive anything large on top of it. But we have access to bring a dingo in this way, so I might be trying to place a couple larger boulders up there. And we're gonna start this thing, let me think. Hop around here. I think right in this area is gonna be the start of it. So Jason and I were thinking, we came out here, they have a nice balcony there. If we were to get a cool waterfall coming in here, shooting that way, give them, you know, a nice waterfall presence to look at, and then having this thing turn right in. So everything behind me, this is all original dry creek bed on the liner. Oh, and one more thing about the dry creek down there, we are going to use liner. It's going to be a rubber line dry creek bed. We've built them before just with like underlayment and stuff like that, but this one's going to be rubber for future. If she wants to make one big massive system tying into her pond down there, we have the material already in place. So a lot of this is going to stay the same. And then this area, this is where I'm going to have to get creative and create a super wide, nice, you know, entry point for all the runoff from her property coming into this and then tying into our water feature. And again, with the rubber liner, I'm gonna leave a pretty good section. We're gonna tuck and disguise it, but in case for future use, she wants to add on, we can unfold that and do an overlap and seam to tie in that top section there. Huge, I mean, this is probably, you know, 20, 30 feet elevation change from top to bottom. This is definitely the highest one I've worked on so far, so challenges just keep on rolling, you know, all this new stuff coming my way. I'm all about it. And this is what I'm talking about with the elevation change. I'm standing at least 20 foot higher. Overall, it's going to be an incredible showcase piece for sure. Today, number one, our goal is, you know, we're getting our bearings straight. We have some awkward access. We're lucky enough to use the neighbor's yard to come in through our gate with our machine work. And we have a rental coming, a rental excavator a little bit bigger to give us some reach with the larger boulders, because the furthest we can bring our rental excavator is going to be right up into this nook here. So hopefully we can get some massive stuff set up top there. There's going to be some tricky, everything about this project is going to be tricky, just access, positioning, this huge slope that we got to work with. We're going to take it nice and slow and stay safe and, I don't know, work fast at the same time. I don't know, but it's going to be one heck of a project, I'll tell you that. So right now we have one waterfall set. Kind of up there where that liner's all folded up. So we're shooting the grade back for our next waterfall. So we're gonna have another waterfall come in, probably somewhere in there, and then shoot that grade back, set a waterfall, then that's where our basin's gonna go on the hillside of that fall. So it's crazy, all this work we're doing now, it's not going to be turned on. It's not part of our water feature, so we're building all these cool waterfalls and we're not going to really know what they look like running until she gets a heavy rain and everything overflows our closed system. So this is the part I was talking about yesterday for her rain drainage situation out here. These falls will be functional during heavy rains. So kind of a bummer that we don't get to see them, but it is all good. We'll see them in our minds when we build them. The crew just ran into probably the biggest anthill we've seen all. So this small machine here actually works a little better in this spot just because I'm so close to the fence line. Turning how I'm doing now, it's a little different with that one. It sticks out when you rotate, like the butt. I think it's actually the side where the engine is. Like when you rotate, it sticks out past the track line. This one doesn't, so it'd probably be a little faster with the bigger one because it's got a bigger bucket on it, but we're using that thing for setting some of these big rocks. A lot of those rocks down there we set with the big machine just because it had nicer reach, and it's just a lot more comfortable to set bigger stone with that thing than this, because this machine can handle rock that size. It's just a little bit of a tipping motion that comes with it, and I'm not going to deal with that if I don't have to. So the goal is for the day to get all the stream and waterfalls built up to the point where our aqua block system's going in, our reservoir for this thing. So I think tomorrow we're going to be tackling the reservoir. I think that's a good goal to have. So by Monday, when we come back out here, we're either building waterfalls that are going into our reservoir, or if we get far enough on Friday, we'll be building the stream part of it. So it's nice. The whole time I'm digging, we have the transit set to the elevation of that next shelf. Is that it right there? Perfect. What Nick's doing, Nick's checking the elevation to make sure that whole plateau is going to be nice and level. One thing you don't want to do on a stream part of a pondless waterfall, or just any stream in general, is give it a pitch to the next waterfall. It looks way more natural and clean when it's either flat or it has a negative, like a reverse pitch to it. You get a little bit more pooling. You want that water to kind of fill up and then find the low point, which is our waterfall stone. Everything just moves more naturally when that happens, instead of having an intentional directional pitch to the low point, our waterfall stone. So as I'm digging, they're constantly raking behind me and checking the elevation to make sure that we're good to go. I'm going to start carving. Found a little old gravel pocket. Pain in the butt. This trash liner and stuff here, this is probably all from the old system. You can just see how this kind of stuff just deteriorates. Like over time, it's all cracked and torn, and it's got roots through it. We don't want any of that stuff. So all this extra dirt that we got, I'm just going to be continuously pushing up behind me. I don't think we're going to take a single bit of dirt out of this job. We might be bringing some in, if anything, just because we're gonna have to start making these different elevation changes, and it's all going to be retained by stones coming off of our stream and waterfall. So for right now, its home is just simply somewhere over there. The dry creek, I'm calling it the dry creek. It's the space between the pond edge and where our basin's going to be. We finished that up just this morning, so it looks just like a normal stream. You know, it has the underlayment, the liner, all that good stuff. And you can see we set some larger stones, just like actually in the pond, and that's there to help, like right in the middle of the entrance is what I'm talking about. There's a big one that's kind of cresting up out and over the water, which has a cool look in itself, but that rock, and there's a couple others that are there solely to help for erosion, because what we don't want to do is when it starts pouring down rain and that dry creek area turns into an actual functional stream, we don't want it eroding out the bank of her natural bottom pond. So we put some large rocks in there just to help retain sediment and retain all the gravel and stone that we did. So we set, there's 3 large ones. You can see one in the middle pretty well, but there's 2 other big ones just as big as that one on either side of it, and then in between that and on top of the sediment we dumped a bunch of cobbles, you know, anywhere from like grapefruit size up to probably like a basketball sized rock down there. We got a couple buckets of that down there, and then we topped it off with gravel. So, you know, the sediment's gonna build on it, that's fine, that's gonna happen, but it's just gonna help preserve the integrity of everything that we just built there. So that's what that is, and that's always a tricky little spot, so it took a little longer than a normal stream that we would build. I think this is kind of where I want things to go here. I'm gonna hop down and take a look and kind of explain what is going through my mind right now. Yep. So that one was supposed to be an 8-inch fall going in there. I think we went a little bit bigger. So this one's gonna be, I think we were talking about 12 inches. Yeah.
It was 3 foot, and then you take the 8-inch fall. That leaves you 28 inches, so that'd be 2 14-inch falls if you split them up.
Yeah, so if we do, we might change it from the original 12.
Yeah.
So that'll be that, and then we'll carve into there. I kind of want to do like more of a turn, but it's gonna get tricky because wherever that basin ends up, this first piece of liner, yeah, this first piece of liner can't be all weird and stuff because it's gonna be an overlap and stuff. So
right.
I think this is a good spot to kind of stop.
Well, I think that liner only came to about like right here anyway, so that might work out good.
Yeah.
You want to roll that out and see how far we can go?
Yeah, I want to finish this grade off.
Yep.
Make sure this is good and how we want it, and then we'll do our underlayment, and then yeah, we'll fold everything back and see what's up.
On that laser, please.
Yep. It's already on.
Oh, is it? Perfect. It's right there in front of you.
It's fine if we're low. Okay. Yeah, this is fine.
All right, so you want us to give this a tamp?
Yeah, we'll tamp it. We'll pull, let's pull all this gravel out that we can see. So you want to pull the gravel out of the streams and everything when you're building, because once you have a rock, rubber liner, and then you go to set another rock on it, that's a really bad combination. It'll leave you with a pinch point. It could pop a hole in the liner. So getting rocks out is just as important as trimming like some big roots and stuff off the sides. But with this, we over excavated this whole area, so our rocks are going to be set off this wall. I'm not too worried with that. We'll do some pruning, but not as extensive as it would be like in a pond edge where you're physically setting rock and like using the wall to hold stuff up. So it's a little different. We'll set the back of the stones more out here, right? And then all this area will just get dirt and backfilled to it. It's crazy to like, just to the naked eye, without like a transit or an elevation, you know, guide or anything. It's hard to see how much fall just from where Nick is down there to here. You would never imagine you would have this large step off. When you start using the lasers and stuff, it starts telling you all this information, and it never matches with what you can see with your eyes. It's crazy. So once we start getting up there, I mean, it's really going to show itself how much fall we have in this whole project.
Here, we need to get this one further in over to this edge too.
Just be careful, Mark. Ending the third week of construction out here. We're getting there. We're about, I don't know, 90% of the way up. The guys are trenching in 2 3-inch lines now, so that's always fun. And of course this side that we're doing it on is just full of roots and all the stuff that you don't want to run into when you're digging 2 3-inch lines in. Aside from that, we got the general bare bones skeleton of the stream done, and this is probably one of my favorite times of the project, because this is when you step back and you gotta add in your wing rocks and retaining rocks, and it really starts giving this straight rock stream some movement and some more eye appeal. So within the stream, you know, once it gets turned on, that water is going to have a bunch of directional changes and, you know, curvature to it and what have you. Dry, looking at it, it's just one big, you know, rock alleyway up here. That's why I like this part of the project. Like, yes, once the water gets in there, it's going to have a bunch of movement, but this is going to give it a lot of movement on its own without the water running. Nick just finished up one rock here. This is what I'm talking about. So this large stone gets added because we have, you know, a good 14, 16 inches of soil back behind there that we need to keep from eroding into where our pumps are stored. So we set this big old rock here. We're able to backfill it. A little bit of it goes around, and it's a lot less mellow of a grade change. So washouts are less likely to happen, and washouts are less likely to happen. So right now is a pretty important day. It's the last day we'll have our big rental excavator out here. So we have to really make sure we're getting done what needs to be done with that machine, and neglecting everything that we can handle with the 2 machines that Earthworks owns. So right now it's, you know, not necessarily setting big ones, but setting ones too far away to reach with our smaller excavator, as in this case here. Everything on the other side of the stream there, we're going to be able to tackle when we return with our Caterpillar. For sure, that thing holds a bunch of weight, so we can drive right up and set any massive rocks with that one. And we have one out front. I mean, so this rock here, the other rock out front that we're going to be setting, probably just past that Home Depot bucket as a retaining rock, it has to be at least twice the size of this one. So let's let this machine get out of our way. That's something that the Caterpillar is going to handle. Our small excavator won't be able to do it.
it'd be nice to get it done with this excavator, but she's leaving us. We have probably another at least 4 of these types of rocks that we need to get set by the end of today, and 2 more rocks up top that need to be set also with that excavator. Like Nick's doing right now, he's getting back in place for us to set boulders up top, almost where Glenn and Jay is at. And we're gonna go take a look at that here in a second, because as far as challenges go, this was one of the biggest challenges, was working up top where those guys are at. I'll explain further in a little bit what we had to do, and you'll be able to see the result of what we did. Come on. Okay, perfect. So we're even not at the top, but we're kind of that way. That rock work behind Mark and Jay, all the way up to where I'm sitting, all of this stuff was installed with our smaller excavator actually up in this streaming area before anything further down there was built. So we had to build all the way up as far as we could, leave enough room around that bulkhead to get a machine up in here. And it was a series of, like, you know, one machine swinging a rock in here, and then the other machine picking up and swinging it up as far as it could get. So this was actually built backwards, how I like to build. I like doing from the bottom up. This one, we started at the bottom up, and then we came back up to the top and started working back down. And this is an example of a connection point that happened. So we were able to continue building up, setting this waterfall here. We're gonna have water coming through this channel here. And this was, where I'm standing, is the end of the dirt elevation for that waterfall to be set. So it's an interesting way. You have to overlap your liners, and there ends up being, you know, a void space because you can't get the dirt work and the rock work, everything to sit perfectly. As opposed to like how we typically build, we set the rock and then we bring the dirt to it and the liner shoots back. This one, we're left with just a bunch of slack out this way, a bunch of slack coming this way, and you got to overlap them. You got to fill the gap with gravel. And in this case, we did a layer of foam and then added our underlayment on top. So as the water comes through here, it passes smoothly over it as if it was, you know, built the way we typically build. We have another section right here. This is the same thing. This is probably a better way to explain it, is actually show you what the heck I'm talking about. So this is the liner. Typically, we would bring dirt, backfill here, and this folds back, and we just keep going. You know, there's, you know, 20 plus more feet on this liner to build the rest of this stream. But what we had to do it in sections because of how crazy of an area this is. We build this first. We leave excess liner here for us to go on top of that liner, essentially. There's a bunch of water coming down. Right, so that's our overlap. This liner comes on top. You won't get a leak doing it that way. Now we're left with this awkward void. We just gravel it up, put a bunch of foam in there, underlayment as another barrier for the water to just easily pass over. And that's how we're connecting these. One spot down there, 2 here, and there's gonna be a third coming from there. I think all of that, from where Jay's standing back to the start of this thing, that's just gonna be one piece of liner. So we have 3 points where we're doing this somewhat awkward of a connection piece, but it's literally the only way we could have gotten it done. So challenges of building in this crazy area. She has some really pretty pine cone ginger over here. I love this stuff. She hates it just because it just encroaches and, you know, takes over, but I love it. It might, you know, hit the ground and croak on her during a really bad winter, but besides that, it's a plant that stays green. And look at that. It's just like Dr. Seuss stuff. Anyways, I'm leaving sections of this because I think it's going to be a great plant just to come up to the edge of all this rock. We got a couple more weeks lined up of work, so stay tuned. The water is running. We've been out here, I think this has got to be our 4th or 5th week out here. The water feature is 100%. Crazy streaming action. I'll run you through where it starts, but right now this is where it ends. And to reiterate, I'm standing on top of our pondless waterfall basin, just like we always build them. This one's a little bit bigger because we have a lot more water in our stream behind me. But the idea behind this, once again, is drainage on her property. Her neighbor's property drains over on this side. So where I'm standing will eventually overflow, and we have 2 more waterfalls going out to the pond that's in front of me. So this is a closed system here. This operates daily. She actually has a switch. She had the electrician put a switch up by her house so she can turn this thing on and off as she wishes. This is our power source. We got our outlets here for our 2 pumps. We have a 300 watt Pro Kitchler transformer. We have lighting throughout this like crazy. And I'll get into this over here, but we also ran some lights on the other side of the property. She's got an ion gen. If you don't know what that is, that's algae control for a pondless waterfall. String algae in particular, it just creates an environment to where it won't live. I won't get too much into that. But what a feature. This is what we're looking at here. You can only see about half of this water feature because it's so steep. So I think we just take a walk up there and check it all out. But massive rocks. My favorite part is adding these retaining wing rocks onto the sides. It just really gives it character. We have our grade graded out. We have sod coming in next week. We got rained out because we had that hurricane come through. So the sod fields are flooded like crazy, but we're on the home stretch. We have a couple more days. We're gonna start putting the neighbors' access driveway back together for them while we're out here today. But let's go look at this thing. I'm gonna get out of it. It's easier to climb. Massive elevation change. The waterfalls are really cool. The sad part to me is we had to engineer these waterfalls to take more flow than what is going over them right now. So when it starts pouring down rain and everyone's drainage is coming down here, we need to anticipate, more than 2 times the amount of flow. So these waterfalls are built a little bit wider than I would if it was just this pondless waterfall. So just imagine, at least double the flow coming through here. It's gonna look incredible when it's pouring down rain, but I think it looks great right now as well. This is a pretty cool area. We still have 1 light that went out on us already. I don't know if it's a connection or what, but that's what that light is. Don't mind that. Really interesting part here where it's splitting and turning and crotching and sheeting. That's a really interesting part of this system here. Keep climbing up. And this is the part that you really couldn't see from down below. We're probably halfway up our closed system here. Series of twists and turns as well. Keep on climbing up. This is a really cool waterfall. It kind of crosses over itself from those 2 frame rocks coming in. And I think, believe it or not, this little 10-inch step down is probably one of my favorite waterfalls, just this little one here. This right here where we're at, this is the start of her water feature. we have 2 pumps coming up here. It's too much flow just for one spillway. So there's actually 2 pondless waterfall spillways back behind there. And it was crazy. I think the original idea was to have this a little bit more, you know, tucked back. There's, I don't know, there was probably like a 100-year-old tree stump right over there in our way. And this is a point where we can't get any of our machinery in. She has a drain field there. Her septic tank's underneath me. So there was a no-go with machinery. So we had to kind of adjust and just improvise, bring it more forward. But this is nice. The angle that we got out of this, kind of aiming over here. So when she's up top, out of on her balcony, she can get a nice glimpse of some water features, because a glimpse of waterfalls, because everything else is aiming, you know, towards the lake there. So we try to give her a little action to look at. And I keep telling her, I think it'd be really nice to do a deck in the future down on that end, to where, you know, destination spot, she can hang out, sip some wine or water or whatever she wants, and just look back on all these crazy waterfalls that she has running through her yard. Now I'm gonna walk up here, because this was the whole purpose of us coming out here. This was the old creek bed that was used as drainage, and there are pipes, you know, coming from the neighbor's yard down into here. So we had to have this, because this actually holds, and it doesn't hold water, it's not watertight, but you know, her drainage flows through here like crazy. And this point right here is where we tied in. So our liner actually comes probably about this far back, and everything else will run out to the lake for her. Now we'll come over to the other side where we've been working this whole week. Another issue was just like, how do you get down there from up top here? Well, she has a series of walkways throughout her property, but this stuff only works, you know, on a certain slope before it gets crazy. So we installed some big Tennessee steppers for her, nice staircase coming down, fighting roots the whole way, but this thing turned out really cool too. Like I was saying before, that transformer actually powers a bunch of 1-watt lights that we have accenting all this. So before these stairs came in, this was just a crazy slope with hidden roots and other trip hazards, holes, and all sorts of things. So a little bit more safe, nice natural look to bring rock to this side of the property. And I love building these. These are super fun. It's a very similar technique to building waterfalls and water features and stuff, but the cool thing is it doesn't leak, so I love it. It doesn't have the potential to leak, I should say. We are working our way out of this backyard, finally. It's been a long project, and today we're tackling 5 pallets of sod, and we got 18 yards of crushed granite to touch up the neighbor's driveway for them. And we're moving right along. It's just before 12 today, and we're through with throwing sod. Where the cat is behind me, all we have to do now is just rake the crushed concrete that we laid last week. We got to rake that out, just get rid of the ruts from our machine, do a little bit of hand grading on some dirt coming through the neighbor's side yard, and then it's out to the front, moving all that crushed granite. After the crushed granite gets laid, the street is the next hurdle that we got to jump over. We brought the parking lot blower to help us get rid of all that dirt that's accumulated just from us running our machines for, I don't know, 2 months or so. This is it. I mean, it's looking great out here. Sod's always like, sod and mulch are like the cherry on tops of all the jobs, because you're just staring at so much dirt, and you know, it's hard to visualize your yard fully coming together until this point here. I talked to Shelly before she left for work today. She's extremely pleased with everything, and she's looking forward to, you know, spending all of her time back here hanging out. And she's a do-it-yourselfer. She's always out here working in her yard, so it's kind of funny. She commented like how much grass she does have to mow, and she push mows, I think, a lot of this herself, which is quite the task. So Shelly, you got your yard back today, and look forward to any future projects you have us do for you, like landscaping. Hopefully we get to come back out here and pop some plants in along the stream, maybe do a little landscaping by the steps we finished up the other week. But yeah, gotta get to it, finish strong, last 10% is going down the day.